in great detail the type of instruments used, even comments the nurses made, what was done. And I was actually reading her report, and it was so detailed of the report that she gave the doctors and the nurses afterwards. And this is when it became one of the more publicized occurrences, because she was actually able to tell the doctor what she heard and what she saw. And like I mentioned, there's 3 different tests to determine brain death. And she was all 3 tests. She was brain dead. Her brain stem response was absent. No blood flowed through her brain. The electrode one, I can't remember the name of that one. But anyway, she was considered clinically dead. She was in a state of deep, but she was yet has one of the most vivid and deepest near-death experiences documented in a while. And so is that the same woman that you're?
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay, you've heard her story. Anyway, so yeah, she's very well known for this story. And that's really what got a lot of researchers and scientists starting to look at this. Because to me, that's evidence that indicates the human consciousness and the body, they exist separately from each other. If she is sitting there watching her body, and this is not an independent occurrence, this has happened and been reported many times, where people can actually see things that there's no way they could have known about.
Okay, well, there's a good way to validate whether or not they're more than just, say, lucid dreaming. Somewhere within the surgery room, the operating room, on top of a cabinet, you have just a sequence of numbers, just laid on the top of a cabinet, like even just a 3-digit number, like 317.
Mm-hmm.
So as the person is supposedly hovering above the operating room, they would see this number. And then when they come back, the doctors or surgeons, whomever, could ask them if they saw the numbers on top of the cabinet and ask them to repeat it. That would be one way of actually validating, because there's no way this person could have known what those numbers were prior to being put under anesthesia for surgery.
Well, there's no way she would have known any of the equipment or what the nurses said, even. I mean, that's the equivalent of numbers on a cabinet to me.
I don't think so. I mean, look, you can ascertain a lot of what is going to happen in the surgery room.
When you're clinically brain dead, to hear a nurse about you?
These are called near-death experiences. They're not called death experiences, near-death. There's a reason why they're called near-death. It's not like, now, if a person dies on Monday and then suddenly comes back to life on Friday, that's a valid claim just to ask what happens in the time in between there. But we're talking about a matter of seconds, minutes, that the person is basically lifeless. It's near death.
Well, she was clinically dead.
For how long?
By 3 different measures.
For how long?
I don't know. I didn't see that in the study, but I mean, it was long enough. I don't know.
Okay. It's not days. It's probably seconds or minutes.
No, you're right. I know, but the researchers and the doctors declared her as dead. They didn't say she was kind of dead for a little while. They said the woman was dead.
They didn't zip her up in a body bag and then suddenly she started clawing her way out.
No, but they did term her as dead. In near-death experiences, the people are they're labeled dead. They're not labeled near dead.
I understand that, but they're not. There's a difference. Obviously, if they're back alive again, they're not dead.
Well, that's what I'm saying with the doctors who do this, and this is what they say. But they do call them, yes, near-death experiences.
Exactly.
That is the term, yes.
Yes, because they're not. I mean, they're clinically dead. I understand what you're saying. My point is, there's a difference between being near death and actually being dead, gone for days, and then coming back.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Why do you have to have a term of why is it if you're dead for 5 minutes or a day?
You don't think it makes a difference?
I'm going to go back now and look to see how long these near-death experiences are, because I didn't see the time frame, but I think once the doctor terms you as dead by 3 different brain tests, that they don't say you're near dead or kind of dead or anything. I think we're just going to keep going in circles. But
what was your percentage earlier? That 18% of people reported near-death experiences, something like that?
No, that had cardiac arrests.
Okay.
That were resuscitated.
Why isn't that number 100%?
After cardiac arrest, I don't know.
I mean, if we all experience the same thing at the point of death, if there is an afterlife, why wouldn't that number be 100%?
I don't think all people experience the same things. I didn't say that.
So we don't all go to the afterlife?
No.
You were saying that there's a lot of commonalities between people who experience what you call near-death experiences. That
yes.
There's the light that they talk to loved ones. Why isn't that number 100%?
because I don't know why some people experience things and other people don't.
Why do some people believe aliens visit the Earth? Or
Okay, I don't know why, but all I know is that these certain near-death experiences do happen. There are commonalities. They have been documented. Doctors and researchers who don't have any faith or religious background have said these same things. And to me, that is evidence that there is something else.
it's evidence that there's a lot of brain activity going on that we don't yet have the ability to
Okay,
explain.
exactly. Okay, well, one
There's a
study,
lot about the brain that we do not yet understand. And
yes,
to make the leap that there's an afterlife, I think is a conjecture you're making far too prematurely.
I don't agree. Okay, so here, I did some research for you.
Because you believe in God.
Exactly.
It's a biased belief. You're not taking, you're taking a
Nope.
biased, yes, you are. Because it fits with your worldview.
Honestly, if I didn't believe in God and I have done all the research I have on near-death experiences, I think I would start to believe in God. Do you know what percentage of people have near-death experiences and believe in an afterlife afterwards? 98% of them that were documented said they now believed in life after death after their life-changing experience.
Mm-hmm.
98% of people who had that type of experience.
Do you know who Francis Collins is?
Francis Collins.
He was the head of the Genome Project.
Okay.
He's a world-renowned geneticist. He was walking along a frozen waterfall and noticed that the waterfall had frozen. He was an atheist. The waterfall had frozen into sort of a triune. There were 3 little splits in the waterfall. And at that point, he fell to his knees and literally wept and converted to Christianity because he felt that was a sign. The 3 waterfall streams that were frozen was a sign in the Trinity.
Okay.
Do you realize we can apply any belief we want to and make it any belief out of it? He saw 3 frozen waterfalls and assumed that was a sign from God.
And how many people, if you think, walked by that same waterfall would have had that same? Do you think 98% of people would have said, "This is God, a sign from God"?
That's
Just
what I'm
this one-
saying. That's what I'm saying. The point is,
The point is the majority
98% of how many people?
that were in the study that from the International Association of Near-Death Studies.
How many
In
people?
the 800 studies of near-death experiences.
So 800 people. Well, that's enough out of the 7 billion in the world.
Okay, these are the ones that were turned in and documented and reported to them. And 25% at the time were clinically dead at the time of their near-death experience. And 98% of the people said that they believed in an afterlife after their experience, that it was a life-altering experience for them. Now,
You ever woken up from a dream and believed it was real?
yes, but within 1 or 2 minutes afterwards, I recognize that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference between a dream and a hallucination, which the University of Kentucky, which is one of the more popular studies that's been gaining a lot of attention for why we have near-death experiences, okay, I'm just going to read what their study is about. They say research here theorizes that the mysterious phenomenon is really an instant of the sleep disorder rapid eye movement, REM. In this disorder, the person's mind can wake up before his body, and hallucinations and feelings of being physically detached from his body can occur. The researchers believe that near-death experiences are actually REM intrusions triggered in the brain by traumatic events like a cardiac arrest. If this is true, this means that the experience of some people following near-death are a confusion from suddenly and unexpectedly entering a dreamlike state. So this theory helps explain what has always been a tantalizing aspect of the mystery of near-death experiences, how people can experience sight and sound after confirmed brain death, where areas of REM intrusion is triggered and it's found in the brainstem. Anyway, so basically, their attempt to explain that near-death experiences are hallucinations, that it's REM. But I don't think that takes into account the commonality of people's near-death experiences and
Why? Because they reach out to loved ones?
Well, no. Okay, so there's the thing. Hallucinations are usually illogical. They're kind of fleeting. They're disoriented sometimes. You don't always know where you are, but vast majority of near-death experiences, they're logical, they're orderly, they're clear, they're comprehensive. People tend to forget their hallucination, but most near-death experience people, they remember very vividly exactly what happened. It's like it's a transformational experience for most people who have near-death
I
experiences.
don't know. I think a lot of people who've taken LSD remember the hallucinations
Yes,
they've had.
people who look back on hallucinations typically recognize them as unreal, as fantasies, whereas people who have these near-death experiences, they recognize them as more than real.
Because they want to attribute it. It has nothing to do with recognizing truth. It's just how they choose to apply it. There's no truth they're finding. It's just they're choosing. It is a choice to believe that what they experienced was valid and true.
Let me tell you one more quote. So one of the leading authorities in near-death experiences is Dr. Peter Fenwick. He's a neuropsychiatrist, and he believes that these theories fall short for this reason, because the state of the brain he explains what the state of the brain is during a near-death experience. So he said the brain isn't functioning. It's not there. It's destroyed. It's abnormal. But yet it can produce these very clear experiences, an unconscious state in when the brain ceases to function. For example, if you faint, you fall to the floor, you don't know what's happening, and the brain isn't working. The memory systems are particularly sensitive to the unconsciousness, so you won't remember anything. Yet after one of these experiences, a near-death experience, you come out with clear, lucid memories. This is a real puzzle for science. I have not yet seen any good scientific explanation that can explain that fact. So he's saying that there's no psychological or physiological model by itself that can explain all the common features of a near-death experience.
Exactly.
So
you cannot start attributing and implying.
Well, you can't.
You're basically saying it's not understood.
Well, yes, exactly. It's not understood. We can't explain it through science.
So you can't just say that is an afterlife. Right.
You can't deny the heightened lucid awareness and logical thought process during a period of impaired cerebral brain.
Let me pose something. I'm not a neuroscientist.
Yes.
Let me just throw this out there. Let me just throw this out there. How fast do we dream?
Oh, really fast.
Like nanoseconds, right? But it feels like an eternity. Who's to say that these experiences people are having is not just, as they're being revived, the flood of oxygen back into the brain, billions of neurons firing at the synapses, all of this flood of activity that's going on in the brain, this electrical current is suddenly being recharged. How do you know within that fraction of a second all of this stuff is happening?
Well, first of all, they haven't measured that type of activity right when the person's coming back.
Right. So I'm saying that is still a possibility. You cannot jump to it's an afterlife. That's what I'm trying to point out. Well, religious people want to immediately say, oh, it's evidence of the afterlife, but it's not. There's not enough evidence yet. We have no studies that have confirmed this one way or the other.
I think we have...
Sarah?
Yes?
You cannot say there's enough evidence to validate that there's an afterlife based on... No, there's not.
Evidence. Yes, there is.
Based on 800 cases? You think that's enough?
That is just the one study that they had done, reviewing and comparing. And as I was looking at their website, they had so many different studies and articles. You should go look at it and see what you have. What I'm
saying is, with the amount of people who die every day and the amount of people who are resuscitated every day, there should be more cases. If there is an afterlife, there should be more cases of this occurring. What did Lazarus say the afterlife was? Did he have anything to say? He was dead for a while, wasn't he? When Jesus brought him back, what did he say?
I didn't see anything about what he had to say.
Oh, he didn't. Interesting.
But you know what is funny? Even...
Yes?
You are just so much fun.
Go ahead.
Okay, yes, I think science and faith can't see eye to eye, but I think that the evidence of near-death experience, the commonalities, the common themes and threads that have been found throughout them, ones that have been documented by men of science, not men of faith, I think you have to attribute something to that. And yes, we can't understand exactly what's going on in the brain, but it's still
too early to say what exactly is happening in the brain at the point of death. We don't know.
So we don't know when someone's brain dead.
No, I'm saying we don't know what causes the hallucinations that these people are experiencing.
None of these people say that it was a hallucination. People know the difference between a hallucination and an out-of-body experience.
Do they?
These people are not...
Go ahead.
No, because I don't think anything I say would make any impact or any difference on you, so why should I say anything else? I mean, you're just gonna...
It's because you're taking such an affirmative stance that this is evidence. And I'm saying, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying we don't know yet. You can't say one way or the other.
Well, I understand that
the studies are still in their infancy.
They've been studied for 30 years.
30 years, yes. People have been dying for several million.
And even at the very beginning, there are records, even in the Egyptian there's records of out-of-body near-death experiences, even as far back as then.
Yeah, people also
That is
believe a
documented.
UFO crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. I mean, look.
Yes, but
for
okay,
every scientist who says that this